Big win by the St. Bonaventure's men's basketball team yesterday for the Coaches versus Cancers whiteout game. Some amazing clips from yesterday's game of the Daryl Banks and Moses Flowers shows. We'll take a look at the highlights later on in the show. This is Bonnie's Basketball Now. I'm Jaeline Valdez, and this is Bonnie's Basketball Now. Alongside me is Leah Lockwood and Allie, Elkins. We have a great show for you today. A couple of stats packages from our very own Anthony De Silva, my favorite segment, one of them, Leah's List, and a very great feature package from our very own Allie Elkins on Captain Beer. Here are some highlights from yesterday's St. Joe's game.
We're looking at some really great shooting here from this Bonaventure team. Daryl Banks got the offense started with a few really great threes. We're seeing a lot of action in the inside from this Bonaventure team as well. A lot of shots from Moses Flowers standing out. Also, Chad Venning just totally killing it. Seeing Moses Flowers, the beautiful swish three. I mean, they just were shooting the lights out last night. That's how I would summarize this. Because Daryl Banks from the corner, are you kidding me? We haven't been seeing this all season. These highlights really show just how different this team is from what we've seen so far in this 2023-2024 season. I mean, Chad Venning just driving through those defenders, Moses Flowers showing up when he needed to. I think what we see here is this team working together on offense. Not just one player dominating, but everybody doing their part. Moses Flowers, Chad Venning, Daryl Banks, all of them contributing on offense. This team is going to be unstoppable. We can see right here, it's just, these stats are just crazy. The thing that stands out to me, and I don't know about you guys, is the assists. 23 to 16, that shows you that they're moving the ball. That is the determining factor when it comes to this team's offense. You look at the steals, big difference, 11 to 4, it's fantastic. Looking at 6 turnovers as well.
And as we just watched an amazing highlight reel, here is our very own Anthony De Silva on stats package on Moses Flowers and Daryl Banks III.
Daryl Banks has recently been moved to the bench in favor of Moses Flowers, so let's take a look at the stats to see who should be starting. Flowers has been very productive coming off the bench for most of the season, averaging 10.4 points per game, and Banks averaged 7.6 points when in the starting lineup. Moses Flowers has been much better shooting the ball than Banks. Flowers has shot 43% from the field, which is good for 6th on the team, while Banks has shot 32.5%, which is 2nd worst on the Bonnies. Flowers also has the 3rd highest 3-point percentage on the team, while Banks ranks 5th on the Bonnies. Flowers has been more impactful at grabbing rebounds, averaging 2.6 per game, 5th on the team, while Banks averages 1.7, good for 10th on the Bonnies. Banks has made an impact sharing the ball, averaging 2.5 assists per game, which is 2nd on the team, while Flowers averages about 1 assist per game. In the first 3 games since being moved into the starting lineup, Flowers seemed to be struggling, averaging 6.7 points per game and shooting 27%, and Daryl Banks' struggles still continued, averaging 6.3 points per game and shooting 31.5%. But in Friday night's game against St. Joseph's, both Flowers and Banks went off. Banks scored a season-high 29 points off the bench, and Flowers scored 23 as the starter. They also shot a combined 19 for 30 from the field. It seems that both Flowers and Banks have found their game, with Flowers starting and Banks coming off the bench, which could be something we see throughout the rest of the season. From BBN, I'm Anthony De Silva.
So ladies, we just saw the number story about Moses Flower and Daryl Banks III. You know, we haven't got to really touch on the fact that Schmidt decided to start Moses Flowers over Daryl Banks for the first time in his time here at St. Bonaventure University. Let's talk about it. Do you think this switch was effective on their end? How do you feel about it?
I was skeptical at first. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work out because, it's something we haven't seen before. Daryl's never come off the bench. So it was really nice to see. I was nervous, but it's working really well for them, I think. And I think that Daryl needed that a lot for his confidence, and he's been maybe sometimes just a little change of environment. The atmosphere feels a little different. You're playing with different guys normally, and he, I think, serves as a good leader for the guys that do also come off the bench. So I think that it works out really well, and Moses has been playing great, and we know he's really experienced as well, so he fits and really well with the starters.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to back you up on that. Specifically in the Daryl Banks realm of things, I think there's some players that embody the term spark off the bench. And that, for me, is Daryl Banks. He's coming off the bench. He's bringing the energy. He's hungry to be out on the court because he didn't start the game. I think that changes the whole scenario. I mean, he's sitting, he's feeling the feeling of sitting, he's going to come into the game with a fire under his butt, and he's going to be trying to score baskets for this team, as we saw in the St. Joseph's game. A significant improvement from everything we've seen from him this season. So I think it's been a fantastic performance from them, the way that it's been going.
And he's had a chip on his shoulder all season long.
Right.
People have been wanting him to prove himself. They've been talking about him all season long about just this is what everybody has been waiting for, and it finally just clicked.
I feel like kind of touching on what you were saying, Allie, that spark off the bench. We're getting a different set of eyes, which is what we need. You know, we know Daryl Banks is capable of being a leader as he is, but sometimes you just need that coming off the bench. You need that kind of different kind of take that we just been seeing. And Daryl Banks off that bench he's getting his groove back, and that's truly something we needed, which we'll touch on later on Leah's list, honestly. But also, let's talk about that game, though, what went right in it. As we saw, Daryl Banks and Moses Flowers were just shooting their lights out. But what else went amazing in that game, do you guys think?
I mean, Bonaventure really just took care of the ball. That's something also that we haven't seen in a while. There's been a lot of turnovers, a lot of sloppy, undisciplined errors, and they really took care of the ball last night. Only 6 turnovers, was it, to St. Joe's 15. And they worked together as a team.
Yeah. The stat that really stood out to me, 23 assists in comparison to St. Joe's 16, that's crazy for me, because that says to me that they were working together on offense. I think this team has struggled with chemistry all season, so to see them getting those assists, moving the ball around, running plays instead of just playing a one-on-one game, that's the difference maker for me.
And that had to be a priority versus St. Joe's, because the previous game against Duquesne, they had a team 4 assists, which is unheard of. That doesn't happen.
It's a significant improvement, and I mean, we do need to work on consistency as far as like making those numbers happen again, but it's a good sign.
Well, coming off that kind of unfortunate loss that you were talking about in Duquesne, I also want to touch a bit on Barry Evans. He's been on fire as well. He's had a couple of groundbreaking dunks that's been hyping up the crowd, but are we surprised by this truly? We know Barry Evans is capable of this. We know, but I'm glad to see someone like him step up when, you know, there's been a lot of shifty things going on in this team, a couple of injuries. We don't know if a couple of people, a lot of situations going on this week, but as you see, Barry Evans just shooting a jumper right here, and he's just been exploding, coming off with a couple amazing block right here. He's just been all around on the floor, which is something they need. He's that kind of energy that they need.
He's that spark off the bench that you guys are talking about in Daryl. That's mine.
And somebody needed to step up on this team. I think we were waiting for somebody to step up. That opportunity was there, right? And I think Barry Evans said, okay, this opportunity is here. I'm going to step up. I'm going to be that person to hype the team up and get them going on offense and kind of bring a little bit of defense along with that. He's that versatile player that they need right now. The spot was available. He took it.
And we know he typically comes off the bench for Assa, Essamvous. And we just, you know, we've been seeing his game kind of lag lately. And unfortunately, that's just something that's been happening. But like I said, I'm glad to see Barry Evans. They may not play the same game, but he's been trying to maneuver his game to also become open to the 3. Like we saw a couple of jumpers and everything. But the defensive end, he's been helping Chad Benning and Noel effectively with a couple of blocks and out rebounding, boxing out, and that's just something we need. Coming up on this show before we go to break, we'll catch Allie Elkins' Captain Beer package, and we'll head into Leah's list coming up.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a 4th ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
The Riley
Center gym might not hold as many fans as your average college basketball arena, but you wouldn't be able to tell by the sound of the enthusiastic student section. And if you look close enough, you might be able to find graduate student Jace Frazier, aka Captain Beer, wearing a beer hat. But to students, Captain Beer is about more than just some guy wearing a hat.
Everyone here kind of knows each other and we lead each other, so getting behind someone that's probably a little bit more passionate, if not just as passionate as most Bonaventure fans, it's cool to have a persona for that.
And Captain Beer doesn't just capture the attention of onlooking fans in the Riley Center. He's popular in the media, and his on-TV appearances have caught the eye of viewers at home.
I remember when I was first thinking of coming to St. Bonaventure, and I was watching the NIT tournament, and I saw a Captain Beer there, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but that's kind of fun.
But there's probably only one fan who understands what Captain Beer is all about.
My name is Jace Frazier. I'm a fifth-year grad student, and I am Captain Beer.
Believe it or not, Jace Frazier isn't the first Captain Beer at Bonas. The title was actually passed down to him by the original Captain Beer, a former student at Bonaventure named Dom Greco.
Dom was the original Captain Beer. He was, I think for all 4 years he was Captain Beer, wore the hat, and it kind of turned into this icon in the student section, like a symbol. Alumni loved it, fans loved it, players loved it, so it kind of turned into this big thing.
But being Captain Beer is about more than just wearing a beer hat on your head. It's about inspiring this already electrifying student section to root on their team in this gym.
When he handed it down to me, there was big shoes to fill. Just trying to be, the Bonnie's biggest fan, loudest cheer, it was hard.
But Captain Beer isn't just a symbol in the Riley Center. He's beloved by fans wherever he goes.
Last year I went to Long Island for the Notre Dame game, and it was a lot of fun wearing the hats, especially playing Notre Dame. It was a great game. We ended up winning. After the game, I had family stopping me for photos and stuff, and I've never had that happen before.
Since this is Jace's last year, only time will tell who's next in line.
I can't wait to go through the process of picking somebody new and kind of seeing what they do with it next year and years following, but I'm excited for the rest of the season. I'm excited to wear it in Brooklyn for the A-10 tournament, maybe get a championship while wearing it. It would be really cool. I'm looking forward to it.
For BBN, I'm Allie Elkins.
So Allie, tell us a bit about your Captain Beer journey. Leah and I came into Bonaventure with the old Captain Beer. Tell us what you heard about this with this new one.
It was a rumor at first. People were just kind of talking about it around me, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is with the beer hat, like what? Right. But I started diving deeper into it, and it was interesting to me, which is exactly why I decided to do this package, because I wanted to understand where this was coming from, understand the legacy, and the second Captain Beer taught me that legacy. It was cool to learn the story, because this is such a deep part of what students here have as the fan experience. And so understanding that fan experience, getting a little bit of background, and then hearing his take on the whole story was really cool. It's really cool coming into this new and seeing all of the old stuff, and everybody's like, I remember that, and I'm like, well, I don't. But it looks fun.
So I feel like kind of what you're saying, us fans talked about Captain Beer a lot, and I think one of the major questions we ask ourselves is, which Captain Beer do we like better? What are your opinions, Leah?
I personally really, really miss the old one. He was iconic. I mean, so loud. I am hard of hearing, and when I'm in the student section, that's all I hear. Like, he was leading the chants. He was doing interviews. He was on, I think, ESPN at one point. They did like a little segment on him. We interviewed him for a previous BBN show. He was really cool about it. I miss him dearly.
After speaking to the current Captain Beer, I'm going to have to say right now that I'm enjoyed getting to know him. He's a good guy, I think that he understood the legacy, and even though some people might not think he's fulfilling the responsibility, I think it's great that, he feels like it's an honor to have it passed down to him. So I do think that's cool.
I do think the legacy thing is really cool. I remember at the time also when Captain Beer had graduated, the original one, all of the starting five from that point in time was announcing that they were going to transfer and take their grad year somewhere else. And they would create this little graphic and write up a little letter. And Captain Beer did the same thing, kind of like keeping in trend with that, almost like he was like part of the team. And that's what I really liked about that, and that it just created this whole atmosphere of like a whole like everybody's a team. The student body, the actual team, we're all together.
Kind of what you touched on, like when those 5 went and Captain Beer went, it was just like, we were like, what are we going to do on Bonaventure basketball? It wasn't only our team, it was also our Captain
huge
Beer.
part of the fan section.
Right. But at the end of the day, I think Captain Beer is doing his best, and we could just nothing but hope for better than that. But as we just took a look at Allie's amazing story, here's another segment we'd like to do, Leah's List. So Leah, tell us, what do we have this week on the list?
So I got some interesting topics for you guys. I'm really excited about this one. My first one, like this ties in perfectly with the Captain Beer conversation, is Wolfpack. Specifically talking about yesterday, the atmosphere and the rally was insane. The whiteout game, it was really cool to see everybody actually stuck with the theme of the game. And then so loud. And I think that when players like Daryl Banks and Moses Flowers are going off like that, that is exactly the kind of energy in the RC that keeps that going and builds that momentum. And then we have 4 of the Bonnie's next 6 games are actually on national television, so I'm so excited to see how the Wolfpack continues to bring that energy. What do you guys see? What have you noticed?
You know, Leah, I was right there down. I don't know, they caught me on ESPN. My mom told me. But it was just the atmosphere these past couple things. That game yesterday, you know, you heard them saying, you know, F the bird is trash. And, you know, the flapping of the bird just
Stupid
couldn't.
hawk.
Stupid hawk, exactly. You know, as fans, we were just going in. And it was nice to see, you know, our first game back, real game back. You know, that Saturday we could have been here. But our first real game back being the white coaches versus cancer, I think that was just a great win. And all of us went and showed out. And I just couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, and I actually had the wonderful opportunity to sit with the producer of that production, and one of the things that he commented on was the fans. He was like, "These fans are amazing. These cameras, these camera angles that we're getting, we just have so much." Because he was like, I haven't seen fans like this before," which is crazy in such a small gym, but the energy that these fans bring is just insane. It definitely captured the attention of the TV crew.
Yeah, it was such a huge honor actually to be part of something like that too. It's so cool. So bringing us to point number 2, I have, on the more serious side of things, a little question for you guys. Is Mark Schmidt washed? So, just adding some context to that, there was some skepticism this past week surrounding the reasoning behind why he had benched Mika Adams-Woods for that Duquesne game. Nobody really knew. Schmidt said in his post-game presser that Adams-Woods was sick, but that information was not announced pre-game like it normally would be. Plus, Adams-Woods was dressed in his warm-up and not street clothes. I, for one, kind of think Schmidt was lying on that. And then I've heard a lot of other fans and students just saying that they were doubting Schmidt as well. And a lot of people took attention to the loss, that it was so evident that he wasn't in the game, his presence wasn't felt. It was a really difficult game to watch.
Yeah, Leah, you know, like you said, you know, we've been hearing a lot as fans from, especially kind of sources close to the team. There's been a lot of discontent coming into this game, you know, with that Duquesne game and everything. I think it's just, you know, it's been a long time they've been on break, you know, probably bumping heads. They're too familiar with each other, you know. They didn't have enough time with other people on break. So I just think, you know, there's probably stepping of toes going on recently coming back from break. You know, there's been a lot of pressure, you know, with like a couple of unfortunate losses that maybe they didn't think, we as fans or everybody probably think that it shouldn't have been deserved, you know, the Richmond Fordham. So maybe it was just a lot of discontent and miscommunication amongst the team, but hopefully they get their act together.
I think it's a little deeper than that. I think that it comes down to coaching style. Because right now, we're seeing this shift in college basketball just in general, where we're seeing a lot of older coaches kind of step back and let other newer coaches take the reins. Because the way that these players are being managed is changing, right? We're seeing a change in attitude. We're seeing a change in response. It's not that, like, hard coaching style that the players respond to anymore. That's not the way that the world works right now in basketball. And so I think that when we're seeing a lot of these coaches who have been coaching since you're seeing positionless basketball come into play, you're seeing three-point shooting evolve. Some of the old coaching style is falling out of style.
I mean, the game has evolved so much that you can't stay stagnant. Yeah. You have to create these new ways to build your team to what it can be instead of what you're trying to mold it to be.
Basketball, I mean, at the professional level is changing, and I think college basketball is starting to reach that point where it's more of a positionless game, and it's less about just getting to the inside, and it's more about being able to shoot the three. It's more about versatility and being able to play multiple roles, and if you can't coach that style of basketball and you're stuck in the past, that could be what we're looking at here.
I think kind of what you guys were touching on, the point of just like these past 3 years has been hard for Schmidt. He lost his next Ironman 2.0, and then he got a whole new crew. That crew came back a second year, but with a couple of additions. So it's like we're at the beginning of the season. Remember, they were still trying to find who's their key role player. Is it Charles Pride? Is it Mika Adams-Woods? Is it going to be Daryl Banks from last year? I still think kind of what you were touching. Mark Schmidt is kind of trying to transition back into this new group. We're kind of seeing that with the transition of him putting Daryl Banks to the bench and with Moses Flowers as starting. I think Schmidt is learning, especially from last year. I cannot, coming into this A10 play, stay the same. Especially with teams really studying and understanding who Bonaventure is. They're pressuring the ball. They're starting to double team Chad Venning down low, and teams are seeing that that's his his disadvantage, and they're adjusting. I feel like Bonaventure, like you were touching on, is not adjusting and learning the other ways of the A10 players, but A10 has been studying us and the other teams, and that's the problem. We're just not adjusting.
And I do want to touch on as well, your point just a little bit, is that this team is a veteran team. They're the oldest team in D1 basketball. That is an insane statistic, and it should speak to the fact that maybe that's where some of this disagreement and this lack of chemistry is coming from. These players have come from other places. They're coming into this program, you know, they're used to a different culture, and coming into it like that could be what we're looking at as chemistry issues.
Right. You know, Leah, I heard there was also another point on your list. You know, as we take a look outside of 810 and to the world of women's basketball, TCU has recently held open tryouts due to recent injuries on their campus. And, you know, we found on the internet a little tryout of, I think, Allie Elkins trying out for TCU women's basketball, right? Let's take a look.
Ooh.
Well, I'm trying to
I think she has heels on in that.
I do, and I'm trying to make my Division I basketball debut. I don't know if Crowley will have me, but Crowley, if you are watching this, I would happily join the team. As you can see, I am switching the ball because I am a champion and I am her. And you basically should just start at this point. I will be the 6th player. I'll hop out there, me and Danny will shoot the lights out. And Crowley, if you're listening to me, you know, this is my tryout, okay? This is my reel. This is my film. So throw it on my huddle, and we'll talk about it later.
And our final thing on Leah's list was, you know, Assa Essamvous decided to take it to his own choice and go to Yik Yak and hold a Daryl Banks III apology form for us to fill out. You know,
Sydney Labieski, this one's for you.
I
mean, you gotta fill that one out about 5 times.
Also, I think there's a few other people on our crew that need to also fill out this form. But I'm not allowed to mention any names. But there are several people who should probably take a look at this and seriously consider it in their life.
So ladies, do you think you need to fill out this apology form?
I don't. I honestly was always saying that I believe in him still. Like, everybody has bad games, everybody gets in little shooting slumps. I don't think he was still affecting the game positively on the defensive end, so I didn't think it was as serious as some people might have thought it to be. I'm gonna set this one out.
Seeing is believing. I've seen one game. I'm not filling it out until we win
maybe
a few
third
more.
time's the charm.
Like maybe third time's the charm. You know, I'm trying to see a little bit more.
Right.
You know, I want more from this.
Well, we're gonna send Assa to your door tonight and have him knock down the door.
That's
gonna
okay.
tell you.
We can have a conversation. We can have a conversation.
You know, me personally, I don't know. I think, like you said, Allie, I'll give it a couple more games to see if I still have to fill out this form. Yeah, you know, like you said, you know, it's a new transition for him. Let's see if he's the Daryl Banks bench the third that we need for him to be.
And not Daryl Bricks.
Yeah, Daryl Bricks. Yeah, like you said, maybe you might have to fill out that form now after that.
I might.
Well, now as we head into break, the upcoming will be our women's discussion on their upcoming Dayton's game and their key matchups.
Yeah, I know. Just look at that. It's so sad.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Isabel Middleton has been a consistent bright spot for a Bonnie's team that has struggled this season and currently riding a 7-game losing streak. So let's take a look at how well she has played this season as a transfer from Slippery Rock, where she averaged around 15 points and 7 rebounds. Middleton has been a solid all-around player for the Bonnies. She has the 3rd best defensive rating and 5th best offensive rating on the team. Middleton has been one of the Bonnies' leading scorers, ranking 3rd on the team in points per game and is 2nd on the team in free throw percentage, shooting 77.8% from the line. She has also been consistent at grabbing rebounds, leading the team averaging almost 6 per game. Middleton has also made plays passing the ball, averaging 1.3 assists per game, which is 5th on the Bonnies. Some areas where Middleton could improve is her shooting percentage and turnovers. She has shot 38.9% from the field, which is 5th on the team, and has turned the ball over the 2nd most times with 46 turnovers. Middleton's consistency has been much needed in a year where the Bonnies have dealt with several injuries, causing her to be only one of 2 players to start and play in every game this season. From BBN, I'm Anthony DeSilva.
As we just took a look at Anthony De Silva's stat package on Isabel Middleton, I feel like we typically talk about here on this show the Danny Haskell story, but let's talk about Isabella a bit, especially with this Maddie Desowski injury that we saw over break. What is she going to bring towards this team for the rest of this A-10 season?
I really enjoy watching her play. I think that she brings so much energy, passion, determination, grit to this team, and I think that that's exactly what this team needed. And we saw her shooting percentage is not the highest on the team, but she's taking the shots. She's driving in the lane. She's driving to the basket. She is at least doing her part, bringing that energy that the rest of the team needs. So it's so fun to watch.
Right. Allie?
When thinking about Isabella, I think about the conversation I had with the George Washington coach ahead of their game. And the one thing that she was concerned about was Isabella Middleton and her aggressiveness. She said, we need to stop her. And that's good. We want her to be a threat. She's aggressive. And the biggest thing for me that she does, she takes over the game when they need it the most. If Danny's cold and she's not shooting well, Isabella Middleton steps in and shoots the lights out to keep Bonaventure in the game. And it hasn't always worked in their favor and translated to wins, but she's still there creating offense. It's a step in the right direction.
There's some stuff too you don't even see in the box score. It just works for them. You'd have to be there. You have to see it to believe it, kind of thing. And her presence is just always so felt.
Kind of like what you guys were saying, Isabella brings that kind of energy that they need. Like we saw the other day versus St. Joe's. They weren't having the best shooting game, but although they weren't having the best shooting game, Isabella kept driving. She kept shooting. She kept being there in the corner for that 3, as we saw on the screen. She just knows, although they may be in a slump right now, she's not going to stop trying to fight for that win. As we saw in the 3rd quarter, she scored most of their points. She was their leading scorer with 10 points, which is unfortunate. She was the only one in double digits on that team. It's just something that they really have to change things around, especially like I said with that Maddie Desowski injury. That I don't think we've ever heard confirmation yet whether she's out for the season or anything, but that's just something we need to look into more as they go in.
And she's definitely bringing the energy for the both of them. Honestly, she brings energy for about 3 people, and they could use probably about 3 more people on that roster right now.
A little bit more with this St. Joe's game that we could talk about. Like I said, Middleton was the only 10-point scoring double digits in that game. Something I just feel like they need to really work on, their energy, like we talk about their energy. They weren't shooting their best, but I feel like their energy started to show. They only scored 2 points in the 2nd quarter. That's not the best thing going into, especially with a limited team. We already knew coming into the season, they had 10 girls. We're familiar with the possibility of injury report with, Ladeshka Lacine we saw in the beginning, Tiana Johnson and everything. Now you definitely have another player out. What is going to go on from now?
I gotta say, I've talked to Crowley about this before. This has been something we've talked about. And he couldn't come up with a word for it. But the best word he said he could come up with was he wants them to be hungrier. And he's like, I can't describe it to you what that means, but he's like, I want them to want to win. And that's what success would look like for this team, in my opinion. I think the other thing he touched on was, I don't want to have to battle back. We want to stay in this game 100% of the time and not have to do that makeup work that results in the team becoming tired. So Crowley's looking for hungriness, and I think that's what the fans are looking for too. We want to see this team want to win games, whether that means confidence, whether that means just general hunger, whether that means just desperately wanting to win. We need to see more.
I think with Middleton too, that's exactly what you're getting.
Yes.
Kind of what you guys were saying, I feel like they need to be more hungry. They only shot 2 free throws, and that was in the 4th quarter of that game, compared to St. Joe's 9 of 11 from the free throw line. That means they weren't driving into the paint. Like you said, they weren't being as hungry, which is something we're going to touch on in key matchups. I just feel like we're not seeing as much of Taylor Napper and everything down there. What are some thoughts for the key matchups for Taylor Napper going into this Dayton game, Allie?
The player that stood out to me was Ariana Smith. She's another big. She is really good defensively. She plays about 30 minutes per game for this team, and she's somebody that's going to be a challenge to Taylor Napper because she's going to be able to get some of those inside shots. She's a little bit taller. Like Crowley has said, they're used to the other teams being taller, but that's going to be a challenge for them.
I just feel like, going into this game kind of also, I would love to see that Taylor Napper matchup, but unfortunately we see many times going into the game, she's just either getting into foul trouble or going into the bench very quickly. I just feel like going into that game, that's a key matchup I want to see, but I want to see Taylor in that matchup really step up in this game. This is just a game I feel going into it that they just need. They're 1-7, Dayton is 2-6, and the 8-10, they're not far from each other. They're 3 spots. Bonaventure is second to last, and Dayton is just, like I said, 3 spots ahead of them. I feel like there's no real competition between them. They're playing at the same level for trying to rank up in the 8-10 standings.
And I do want to make an honorable mention just really quickly because you talk about driving to the basket and you want to see more of that. There's one player who has been doing enough of that for me, and that is Nadeshka Lassine. And I wanted to touch on that really quickly because she's somebody who's provided a lot of spark for this team, and whoever she's matched up with is in trouble because she's really providing a lot of aggressiveness in the inside. She's willing to take a lot of dives for the ball, and she's willing to take that contact.
Something that I want to kind of go back on was when we were talking about the foul shots in the St. Joe's game. Only 2 of them. And in a crucial game versus Dayton like this, obviously, Bonnies haven't won in over a month. You really want to break this losing streak to a team that is very possibly beatable.
Right.
And only 2 foul shots in last game. I'm really curious to see how they bounce back against that and draw more fouls and really be aggressive, drive. I think that's going to be key to this win.
Well, kind of before we head into our predictions, kind of to what you were saying, Allie, you had the honorable mention of Nadeshka Lassine. My key matchups was Ivy Wolf versus Danny Haskell, or really truly any guard's game. Ivy Wolf is a transfer from Miami. She knows how to put the ball into the paint. She knows how to drive. Kind of what you were saying, she kind of has that Nadeshka Lassine with that Danny Haskell game to her, which I love to see. Dayton with her, unfortunately they're only 2-6, but she's taking over the game. She's truly trying to maneuver them to a new role and everything. But truly, I can't wait to see what tomorrow's game at noon lines up for them. Going into that, what are your predictions for the game? Leah?
I got Bonnie's win.
Oh,
I'm
really?
going Bonnie's win. I think they're going to be able to put the pieces together. I think they will definitely draw more fouls than they did last game, and I think that they're going to pull it together. Everybody is going to play hungrier, like you were saying, finally, and they're going to break the losing streak.
Yeah, this team's in for a good one. I mean, they need something right now, and I think that's going to be something that sticks out to them because basketball is a mental game, right? And if you're not winning games right now, you're in a really bad spot as far as your record's concerned. I mean, what do they got to lose, right? They got to win something right now. And I think that there's a possibility they could go into it with that mentality. I think this team has the ability to win games. I think they're just like the men's team. They're struggling with consistency.
So are we putting you in the wing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, guys, I think we're going 3 for 3 on wins because I also have them in the win column. I think this is truly, like you were saying, I think there is no competition between these teams. Like I said, there are 3 spots in between each other, Dayton coming in 2-6 and us just 1-7. I just truly think this is like you said, they haven't won in a month. This is truly like a confidence booster when they need. All of their losses typically aren't through large marginal losses. It's just they're not, towards the end of the game, they're not staying consistent, like you're saying. They're not hungry. During that 3rd quarter in St. Joe's, they almost had a run. We were nail biting, kind of. We were seeing that, okay, maybe they do have this drive. They know what they need to do. It's just unfortunate that they can't execute it to the last minute. But all three of us have a win in the column, and I think that's the first for a while when it comes to the women's basketball team. Well, everyone, thank you here. This is Bonnie. I'm Jaeline Valdez, alongside, like I said, Leah Lockwood and Allie Elkins. Thank you for this show, and we'll see you next week here on Bonnie's Basketball Now.